weather enthusiasts. I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have an update on our area of interest that we're going to be talking about today. The wave is coming off the coast of Africa in the next 24 hours. We're also going to be talking about a few other potential areas in the tropics as well that we're going to want to watch out for. So we have a few things we're going to discuss today, but with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive right into it right here. So starting off from the National Hurricane Center, we have our area of interest right there. Still a 30% chance of formation in the next 7 days. We're going to want to watch and see how this will ultimately pan out. I know the models are liking this more and more, and both the ensemble and operational runs are starting to, so we're going to want to watch out for this as well. But here we go. A tropical wave is forecast to emerge off the west coast of Africa on Sunday. Thereafter, environmental conditions could support some slow development of the system while it moves westward to west-northwestward at around 15 miles per hour across the eastern and central tropical Atlantic next week. 30% in the next 7 days. So that's what we're dealing with right here. Expected to come off the coast in the next 24 hours, and we can go ahead and show you satellite imagery in just a second, but ultimately this looks to me like it's going to be more of a long-term threat, and it doesn't look like it's going to be like a situation like Aaron where it just develops right away. It's going to take a little bit of time to organize and develop right there, and we'll go ahead and show you what's going on with that, and we'll see, okay, how exactly is this going to pan out right here. So going to satellite imagery right here for you guys, we are looking at the eastern Atlantic. As you can see right here, the wave is coming off the coast of Africa right here. You're seeing a lot more convection firing up pretty interestingly over the last few hours all across parts of Senegal, parts of Guinea right here. So you're going to want to watch that for as well. Parts of Gambia too. Western Gambia is starting to see some bursts of convection right here. That's going to be emerging off the coast of Africa pretty shortly. So you're going to want to watch out for that as well. But as time goes on, as it moves further away from land, you're going to notice that this becomes a bit more disorganized. And you're going to notice that a lot of this new convection that's firing up right now is going to turn into, it's probably, in my opinion, probably not going to really sustain itself right away. It's going to take its time because what's doing right now, it's producing a lot of convection through land-based means, mainly through forcing, through parcels, and all of that stuff, whereas with water-based, it needs to get its source of theta E, which is generally evaporating water. So that's your general gist that we have right here. Splashdown effect is going to be very key, especially over the next 24 to 48 hours as this moves into the region right here, the main development region, I would say for you as well. So we're going to want to pay attention to that. So there might be some fluctuations in both the intensity and the track of the system right here. So we're going to want to watch out for that as well, and we'll keep you updated on that here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. Another thing we're noticing for you right here is we're noticing that this is emerging off a pretty moist environment compared to what we were potentially seeing a couple of days ago. What we're seeing now is a more fruitful environment potentially for tropical development. There is a little bit of shear to the north that we're going to want to pay attention to over the next few days. But by and large, you do have a decent environment for tropical development, especially, I would say, over the next few days, so we're going to want to watch out for that as well. It's not going to really develop right away, like I said. It's going to need to get through some cooler waters. It's going to need to chug through some interesting conditions as well. It's going to need to chug through a little bit of stable air as well. So we're going to want to see how this will ultimately pan out as we get towards the central part of the main development region. So that's your situation based on RGB moisture right here. Let's go ahead and show you true color right here, and true color is continuing to be a bit more fascinating, and part of the reason we're seeing more convection, it's becoming nighttime right here. It's late afternoon to the early evening in parts of Africa right here. You're definitely seeing increased convection as a result of that from that land-based forcing that we were talking about earlier. It's going to potentially start to move into the tropics right here, and it's going to kind of fizzle out as it moves through the waters. It's going to take some time to reorganize. This is nothing new right here, but we do have some more waves after that we're going to want to watch, especially going into September as well. So that's going to be something intriguing to watch. Climate Prediction Center is taking this very seriously right here. They actually are kind of marking this as your potential area of interest for next week, and we can go ahead and show you that. So starting off with your CPC, I know this is the same outlook we use all the time, but you do have that 20% greater than 20% probability of stuff happening, potentially tropical development, I would say, in the MDR, encompassing all the way from the Lesser Antilles to west of the Cabo Verdes right here. So that's going to be something you're going to want to watch right there. I believe it's with that tropical wave, the timing kind of aligns with that almost perfectly right there. So you're going to want to watch out for that. But going into the second week, full week of September after Labor Day, you're going to want to watch out if you're being forecasted for the Gulf Coast, for parts of Central America, and in parts of the Antilles as well, going all the way to Puerto Rico. Because for the MDR system, we're looking at better conditions over there. We're looking at greater than 40% probability of development right there in the MDR, greater than 20% now with the Central American gyre going to be in play, especially as we go into late September. And we can go ahead now and kind of give you an explanation as to why this is your full map that we have for you right here. And what you're noticing here across parts of Central America and off the main development region too is you're noticing more moisture, more precipitation probabilities than average in those areas as well, which will help induce some tropical development if that does happen. Greater precipitation means greater moisture. And that's something that you're going to want to watch out for. So that's something we're going to need to pay attention to as well, especially as dry air continues to encompass parts of the coast, parts of the main development region, and through parts of the Atlantic. It's not nearly as bad as it was in June and July, but you're still going to want to watch that as well. It's not nearly like 2022 levels bad or anything like that, like we saw before. But we're going to have to pay attention to that, and we'll keep you updated here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. Let's go ahead now and show you the ensembles right here. We're going to go ahead and start with the European ensembles, and you can already tell that that we're seeing a pretty significant upswing already from what we're seeing with the 10-day forecast. But we're going to take this day by day and go to day 4, and boom, look at all of these ensembles right here. How many do we got for the European? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'd say 20, closer to 25 ensembles out of the spread of 30 the European provides. That is quite the situation we're going to want to watch right there. And given how concentrated this is as well, you're going to have the European ensembles are having a good feeling that this is going to be organizing, developing, and potentially strengthening down the road. So that's already what you're looking at your kind of focal point, your initialization point. Heck, we can go to 3 days out and already see a lot of this happening. It's not going to develop right away according to these forecasts right there, but you're definitely going to want to watch and see how this will ultimately develop. And this could be a situation where down the road, if it survives that long, this could be a very powerful storm, similar, not necessarily intensity, but in similar regards to how Aaron ultimately intensified, where it kind of started off, it stayed a 45-mile-per-hour tropical storm, and then it exploded in intensity as it got closer to the Lesser Antilles. So that is always a factor that you're going to want to watch out for. Going ahead now to what we're seeing to 5 days out, already looking at a lot of ensembles with power too right here, 996, 1003, 1006. Right there. You have a lot of ensembles that remain relatively weak, but you have more with power associated with it. And given still how concentrated the spread is right here, you're going to want to keep a very close eye on this as well. Like, the models are really liking this setup right here. And let's go ahead now and go to 6 days out just to only exacerbate that. Yeah, a lot more pop and a lot more power with these runs right here. 990, 1003, 1000, 1000, 1005, 1007. All of these are pretty interesting right here. I will say there is a little bit more of a spread compared to how concentrated it was there, but still, looking at over 25 out of the 30 European ensembles are really going off right here. You're going to want to keep a very close eye on that as well. And then even after that, you're looking at a lot of pop and a lot of power. 990, 993, 996, 997. There's quite a few thousands in here. This is tropical storm strength right here with a few hurricane strength ensembles as well. And that is something that is really screaming from the European. I know the GFS was screaming about it yesterday. The European's finally screaming about it right now. So we're kind of officially, as I like to call, models are screaming about this territory right here. So you're going to want to keep this in mind. Let's go ahead now and go to 8 days out right here. My goodness, look at this. There is a bit more of a spread to it, but there are a lot of powerful ensembles associated with this as the system moves further to the west and in better conditions. So that is something you're going to want to watch. And then going to 216 hours out, which is 9 days, you're still looking at that quite considerably as well. And then going to 10 days out like earlier, you have quite the powerful spread right here of the runs. Just for my own curiosity, what was the 12Z like yesterday? 12Z yesterday also really significantly uptrended as well. Not nearly as concentrated, it's a lot more spread out, but my goodness, if you're in the Lesser Antilles, you're going to want to potentially watch this, especially with those Southern Ensembles runs, potentially heading more so towards your neck of the woods. And we're going to talk about this more tonight. Yes, we're going to be streaming starting at 8 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and 7 p.m. Central Time. I'm going to put up the stream video for that, so that way you guys can chat on that while I'm editing this video, while I'm taking care of this. So by the time this video goes out, you can just go to the stream, leave a like, and do all those things and just chat in it and have a good time over there. But that's your European ensembles right here. What is the GFS going for right here, Patrick? Well, I'm glad you asked right here. GFS ensembles, very concentrated initially, not as confident actually further out. So we're going to want to watch that, but I still want to go to 4 days out just to show you this. Very concentrated signal. Like the European and GFS are in lockstep early on right here, and when you see that, you do not want, like, that's not a good sign right there, especially for the Cabo Verde Islands and the southern Cabo Verdes, that in general, that all of those islands were really affected by Erin before it became a tropical storm. And with this potentially happening again, it's going to be a very wet early part of the week for those regions right there, so you're going to want to pay attention moving forward. But now we're going to go ahead and go to 120 hours out. Still a very concentrated signal, but you're noticing a defined shift right here. We have about 50% of the ensembles going further to the south and 50% of the ensembles going to the further up to the north. The more weaker runs that we're noticing right here are further to the south, while the stronger ones are further up to the north. Coriolis plays a role with that. But then as we go to 6 days out, it becomes a lot more pronounced. And yes, they still remain relatively weak for right now, but similar to the European, they're waiting for this to kind of enter into better conditions. Look at what we're seeing at 2 days right here before it starts going. Like the northern ensembles really start to ramp up a bit more, and then as we get to 9 days out for you guys right here, that's when things really start to turn up. 1,005 max winds around potentially 50 to 60 knots. That's 60 to 70 miles per hour. Right there, and then going to 10 days out is when potentially some intensification starts to come in play right here. So we're going to want to pay attention to that here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. GFS and European initially are in lockstep, but it's mainly the long-term forecast where they differ a little bit. So that's your latest and greatest right there. Let's go ahead and show you the operational runs and go, okay, how have the operational runs caught up to the ensembles? And they've started to catch up more and more. Wave comes off the coast of Africa, according to the European, moves through parts of the main development region southwest of the Cabo Verdes, takes its time to organize and develop, and then potentially strengthens after that once it has a closed low right here. 1,007 millibars right here, starts to intensify to potentially strong tropical storm strength, 999 millibars by the time we get to September 7th through parts of the MDR. So we're going to want to watch out for that as well. It does start to weaken. I know the European does have an increase of dry air in that area right there. I've checked it earlier, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But by and large, still, the European is uptrending on this quite a bit, especially compared to what we saw yesterday. And this is one of those scenarios where we're going to have to watch out for it. Looking at the GFS, what's the GFS going for? With this similar situation, wave comes off. They actually develop it really early on, actually. 1,003 millibar tropical storm by the time we're at 5 days out, and before this is even fully out of the Cabo Verdes as well. So you have the system moving through. It moves further up to the north, which I do think is kind of interesting, as a 998 millibar strong tropical storm right there. Then it starts to weaken due to some wind shear, because if you do see it get yanked that far up to the north right there, it's going to run right into the wind shear, and we'll show you that a little bit later down the road. as well, but it's going to get yanked into that wind shear and it's going to start tearing it apart right there. It needs to stay south of that shear for it to continue to intensify at the way the GFS is going, and then the GFS just kind of has it weakening and the shear just ultimately tears it apart from right there. But then you have another wave that starts to potentially organize and develop, and starting what we're seeing right here, the GFS does want something potentially happening happening off parts of the Central American gyre. Now, granted, this is 384 hours out. We're looking at a hurricane hitting potentially Belize and the Yucatan right here at that point. Ha 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 ha. It's the GFS. Take it with a grain of salt for right now, but we are starting to see those returns for you guys. So what we're now seeing with the Canadian as well, let's go ahead and go to the 0Z on that as well, just for comparison and context. Canadian is also pretty interesting right here. The most conservative model out of them, they don't really have that much happening with that, which I do think is kind of interesting. Going to the 12Z, let's see if anything's different with that. Yeah, it is a little bit different. You do have a weak system starting to potentially develop right there, but it doesn't last particularly very long, so we'll have to see how that continues to catch up to the European and the GFS, because those two runs have really led the charge with this right here. And lastly, we'll go ahead and show you the Icon. Icon is not the best model. It's a little iconic for being not the greatest, but you do have this system really starting to organize and intensify potentially to tropical depression strength as it moves west of the Cabo Verdes right here. So we're going to have to keep a very close eye on that as well. So that's your model runs right there for both the ensembles and the conditions. Let's go ahead, not the conditions, but rather the operationals. Here's what the conditions look like right here. We're going to go ahead and refresh this right here. This is what we have for your water temperatures. Water temperatures as it's moving off the coast of Africa right now, moving off of Senegal and Gambia, is in around 27 to 28 degrees Celsius, so leagues better compared to what we saw with Aaron, where it was like 25 degrees Celsius as it moved towards the Cabo Verdes right here. But as it moves further to the west and it starts to move into warmer and warmer temperatures as well. Looking at temperatures all the way up to 29 degrees Celsius if it moves that far to the west, like some of the ensembles are forecasting. You're going to definitely need to keep a very close eye on this. You still have that cold wake that's left behind by Aaron that's slowly getting built back up right here. So that's going to be something to watch as well. Now looking at the ocean heat content, OHC continues to be very interesting. We'll go ahead and pull up the latest one right here. This is what we got for you with the OHC. You have a lot of ocean heat content right off the board in parts of Gambia and parts of Senegal right here. But then as you move further to the west, it gets down to about 25-ish OHC as it moves there. But then as you move further to the west, you're looking at your 50s, 75, up to 100 OHC in a few areas, especially as you get closer towards the Lesser Antilles. And that's something you're going to have to pay attention to as well. Now, the main concern I have with this is the wind shear. And we'll go ahead and show you that because the GFS has this really yanking up towards the north, like north of the Cabo Verdes. If that does that, it's going to run right into some wind shear that's going to be developing over here. So it needs to stay south of this wind shear pocket right here that we're seeing right here that's starting to develop. That kind of the European has staying further to the south right here. So if it gets yanked up to the north, it's going to run right into this wind shear and get torn apart pretty quickly right here. So that's something you're going to want to pay attention to going forward. But then as you move towards around 5 days out or so, you do have this the shear kind of starting to move a bit further up to the north as well. It stays just out of the reach of the core that potentially starts to build, and it kind of helps catch some of the inflow that I was talking about in yesterday's video, and I believe in the video before that as well. So that's something to watch. The shear can both be beneficial and can both be very bad for a tropical development. Shear and the angle that we're seeing right here definitely can be very beneficial for that. So we're going to have to pay attention to that right there, and kind of where the shear lines up will be where kind of how this system will ultimately develop. If it develops further up to the north compared to the models, it's going to have more, the system's going to have more breathing room. Further to the south, we may not see as much excitement happening over there. So we're going to have to keep you updated with that here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But once again, we are streaming tonight starting at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, and at 8 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time. So be sure you stay tuned for that. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. We're going to bring our tropical team on, and we're going to be talking about some models and having some other fun stuff happening as well. But with that being said, we're closing the video out right here. Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. If you would like to help out, hang out, or ask us questions, feel free to join the Storms United Discord server. The link to that will be in the end screen. We'd really appreciate if you came on. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.